In this first part of this exercise, we're going to just experiment a little bit with our pencils just to get a feel for how hard you have to press to make it go darker. So here I'm using the 2H pencil and I'm just very, very lightly shading. Notice how far back I have my hand on the pencil as well. The HB, just a little bit of shading going back and forth and starting to add a little bit of pressure. Checking line weight variation, 2B pencil, same thing, a little more pressure. You'll notice with the 2B pencil, it doesn't take very much for it to go very dark. I notice that I like to lay in a layer of 2H over the entire value scale. It makes it a little bit easier to switch pencils and to have the graphite sit on top of it. Layer 2, I'm showing you, I'm starting to do loops, slowing it down there. I am shading, not putting any pressure down, just using the very tip of the pencil to touch the paper there. And I'm just going in very loose circles. I'm going to do that again over the value scale here. I change the angle of my pencil quite often in order to keep the edges clean. I'm not super worried about perfect edges, but I am doing my best to stay within the boundary there. Once I've applied a second layer over the entire scale, we're going to start making subtle transitions towards the darker values. I'm going to switch pencils. I've put down the 2H and I have switched to HB. I'm going to practice doing circular shading, keeping my hand further back on the pencil and not applying very much pressure at all, just trying to see what very light pressure does with circular shading. And also what 2 and 3 layers of this kind of shading starts to look like. I'm defining the edge without putting a line in. We want the value transition to be evident based on just the graphite going a little bit darker, not putting a dark line in there. We just want it to transition. Here I'm taking the HB pencil and I'm going into the next box. Still keeping pressure very light. making slow transitions into now the 2B pencil, the one that is much softer and graphite. And it doesn't take a whole lot to make it go dark. So you do have to be very conscientious about how much pressure you put down. I'm making bigger circular moves, and I'm trying to keep myself from making lines or breaks in my shading. Once you've gotten comfortable with that, you can go to your value scale and go into box number 5. Again, trying to establish for myself a value that's just one step darker than box number 4 without putting a line there. Now, in these boxes, it becomes easier to change angles when you're shading because you know that you're going to go much darker. It's actually a whole lot more forgiving. After this, we're going to go into a gradation. You want to keep rhythm, laying in that first 2H, and then switching to an HB pencil and slowly making gradations without breaks. And when you're ready, you can switch to the 2B, really putting down quite a bit of pressure and trying to get rid of any sort of breaks. I do take the 2H at the very end there and go over the entire scale.